Fantastic. Well, hello everyone. I'm Andrew, and tonight, sort of the topic of the meetup, but I'm going to be talking about how to go from engineer to engineering manager. And really what I'm actually talking about is how to go from individual contributor to managing people. And I guess the first question is, why? Why do I get to tell you about that? And I guess before this, I was a tech lead and a senior engineer, junior engineer. Then I didn't know how to code, and I was a squadron leader before that. And then I was a platoon commander, and then I was a section leader, and then I was a soldier running around with a helmet, not knowing what the hell to do. So I've been an individual contributor of sorts in different ways. And I've made this kind of journey a couple of times. And the first thing I'd always say is pretty important. Why would you do it? Like it's potentially an awful move. I really do think the first thing you've got to do is find your why. And I think particularly as an engineering sort of organization, as an engineer, you've got to know this because sort of taking it back to basics, we spend all our time diving really deeply into technical stuff, learning deep technical knowledge, and then using that to solve problems. And we love abstractions. We love taking things, making it easy for the end user. But when we've built this kind of perfect system, ultimately we put it in front of a user and they sort of go, oh, yeah, that's great. Could you maybe shift it just ever so slightly to the left? And that's sort of 3 weeks worth of work. It's awful. So most of your problems come when you've built something, you put it in front of a user. People, basically, that's where our issues come. And what you want to do as an engineering manager is you basically take that technical side that you've gone really, really deep on, and you've gained a huge amount of knowledge, and you go, yeah, I'm going to chuck that to the side a little bit. And this thing that's always caused me my problems, people, that's now going to be my problem. That's where I'm going to focus. And not just that, you're going to take more than one person and you're going to make them your problem. And another problem above you is going to make you their problem. So you've got problems above you, got problems beneath you. That's going to be your focus. So you really got to understand why you want to do that. And I can tell you one reason you shouldn't want to do that, and that's generally career progression. So more pay or more status. Those kind of motivating factors don't tend to stick around very long, particularly when things get tough. You've got to find your own reason why, but it's definitely the first step, I'd say. I can tell you mine. So if you want to talk to me about all the things I've built over the years, I will chew your ear off for a good half an hour. You can't shut me up. But if you start to talk to me about some of the people I've influenced along the way, so some of the junior developers I worked with, I paired with, mentored all the way through, they're now tech leads, they're building fantastic stuff. That really resonates with me. Some of the things we built, when we put them in front of end users and you could kind of see the impact it was having, the changes it made to their lives, that's fantastic. And that's my reason why. That's why I like doing this sort of stuff. That's why I like making people my problem. But I think this is the first question you should be asking yourself. Yeah, apologies. This presentation is just GIFs. So, but I think this is a very accurate thing. So the first thing most people sort of get to when they put down coding and they move towards management, is they're like, well, what do I do? You've gone from being really productive. You've been delivering features. You get those small dopamine hits every time you solve a problem, to not really having a job spec. And the first place you can go is your boss, and they'll tell you very clearly what their expectations of you are. But I actually think of this as a bit of an opportunity, because there is a massive world of stuff you can get involved in as an engineering manager. You can sort of do the delivery side. You can get into coaching, mentoring, really developing your people. There's a massive, just a huge spectrum. And there's a bit of a fad sort of going on in Silicon Valley at the moment, which is writing manager readmes. I don't know if anyone's kind of come across that. Yeah, so it's the sort of thing where you basically write a README for yourself, for your subordinates, and it's meant to be a way for them to get to know you very, very quickly without any interaction. And it tells them a little bit about you, maybe how you work, those kind of things. Well, I think this is potentially an opportunity less for your subordinates and more for you to really crystallize what you think your job is. And once you've done that, it's a great thinking exercise. The next thing is get some feedback on it, right? Put it in front of your manager, because he'll very quickly tell you that, no, he expects you to do these other things that you didn't really think you wanted to do as part of your job. Just a little tip there. So I'd say define your what. And then once you've done that, It's probably a little bit what you're feeling like now. Can I just get to something concrete and tell you some interesting things, some tips maybe that you could take away from here? And this is kind of my philosophy in terms of how I do my day-to-day. I've tried to keep it very, very high level, but I'll try and explain it. When you move from being an engineer to an engineering manager, you're going through your first iteration of the what that you've defined. So for example, your team, you've got to coach those individuals. You potentially have one-to-ones with them every week. That's a process you want to set up. You want to make sure you have recurring invites. And this is very basic, but for other things, it becomes much more complicated. You want to make sure you always have an agenda so that if you're running from back-to-back meetings, you can always sit down with someone and you can always know that you can whip out that agenda that potentially they've got access to, they can add things to. You can always run through it and you can professionally and usefully make use of that time. Let's take it a step further. So if you're interested in delivery, well, the first time you run through things, save everything you do. And you can even take it to the point where when you know your next release is coming up, you can build a Google script to send out a load of invites that will set up your pre-mortem, your go, no go, your pre-flight, in-flight, post-flight, all of those kind of meetings, post-mortems, all of that sort of stuff. You've got templates for them. It's all good to go. Systematize it. And the reason I'm saying this as a philosophy is that one mistake I've seen from lots of managers over the years is that they get incredibly caught up in the results. Dates, right? We've all kind of come across that, maybe. Focus on a date. And I can guarantee you that the one thing will change is the date. Always does. Exactly what's being output. People get very, very focused on that. And I think the thing here is to say that as a philosophy, if you focus more on the systems that are going to get you there, so the people, building them up, the teams, the processes, all of that sort of stuff, you're focusing on the things that will get you the greatest chance of getting that end result. So find your why. It's your motivation. Define what the hell you're going to do to narrow your focus and also to give you a direction. And then just focus on how you're going to do it. And you'll be a great engineering manager. Thank you.